Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Trustees meeting to order on Tuesday, November 21st at approximately 6:08 p.m. Everybody please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please silence any noisemakers you may have? Roll call, please.
Nino?
Here.
Duffy?
Here.
Baker?
Here.
Adamko?
Here.
Bell?
Here.
Enquist? Here. Berger?
Here.
Approval of the agenda as published.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes as published. There's a couple of sets in there. A couple of three.
Wow. I make a motion we approve the minutes from the Tuesday, October 17th. Well, that's probably not the ones you want to do first, though.
That's fine.
Sure, okay, that's what I'm coming for. Tuesday, October 17th, the Sister Bay Liberty Grove, yeah, sorry. Board of Trustee minutes, Tuesday, October 17th.
I'll second it.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
Next.
Next would be.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the special Board of Trustees meeting Tuesday, October 24th.
Second.
Changes, additions, deletions, comments?
No, good to
All
me.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next would be the minutes of November 2nd.
Which was a joint meeting with Liberty Grove. I'll make a motion we approve those minutes.
Second.
Changes, additions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's it. That's all you're getting from me.
And last but not least, Monday, November 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Question though.
Please.
Page 17, line 46. That the town residents would be required to annex their property into the village in order to obtain sewer and/or water service unless a sufficient number of town residents request that action?
Yeah, it's not,
That
doesn't make sense.
It's not,
It was only sewer, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That, I would say that,
I think you should just remove the and/or water and just leave it at sewer service period. Everything else can
Yeah,
stay the
sewer
same.
service unless.
Okay.
Anything else? All in favor with the change?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Correspondence.
so a couple of items of correspondence in the packet. One is from Miss Annie Miller, who's the chair of the Door County Coastal Byways Commission. So in there, she's simply just relaying the various things that have occurred as successes for 2016 as well as goals, 2016, 2017 as well as some goals coming up for 2018. So I just think it's good that folks are in the loop on that one. There is one vacancy that needs to be appointed on that, and that was mine. So just as a reminder on that. On page 20 in the packets, there is a Door County Humane Society open house, which is December 2nd from 11 to 2. Fantastic organization, and if you guys can make that, I'm sure they would appreciate it. There is, in page 21, a letter from the Tourism Zone Commission, signed by Josh Van Lashout, I'm sure written by Kim Roberts, but Kim does a really good job of keeping us up to speed on what goes on within the state. There have been some changes recently with regard to Airbnb and VRBO and other lodging marketplace providers, and she effectively just details that in here.
I would like to ask the question, How is that going to affect Sister Bay's code? There were certainly, starting on page 22, you know, a couple of paragraphs there that at least I read that was a little concerning, that may,
That was my question.
Nothing flags for me, but I will go back and review our code in terms of the enabling ordinance and see if we need to amend anything. But
Okay.
from what they are recommending is, the commission has wanted to aggregate that, I'm sorry, not aggregate, but collect that individual data from the individual lodging providers, so they will then have a better data set to review later on. So if we do it this way, we won't know how many bedrooms are in the property. Is there a timing gap on collections? There's just an overall data loss. So Kim's recommendation was that we not participate in that, and they continue to remit individually. That's my recollection of that.
okay, so you're going to review our code and we
I'll
can
bring
talk
something
about it
back.
at Plan Commission next week?
But yeah, if you're gonna talk about it at Plan Commission, we could, but I think it'd be appropriate to bring back to the board.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, based on what I read here, that could directly affect any number of portions of our code.
Correct, that's the way I
Sure.
read it.
Just as a side note, we were the case that just happened down in Oshkosh with, single-family housing and renting that.
I heard there was a case that was going on, but I did not heard the result of it.
The result of that was the courts ruled in favor of the property owner, not the city, with regard to renting the property on a transient basis, which we allow. So just for your edification here, that's something that Plan Commission and the board should consider. I'm assuming that we want to continue allowing people to rent their individual properties, but the city of Oshkosh, they decided that they did not want that to happen in single-family residential neighborhoods. There was a property owner that took them to court and said, well, it is a single family occupying the house, and that is your code, single family residences, but it doesn't specify how long that family has to occupy the home, and the property owner won that case, is my understanding.
I mean, I can understand some concern.
Where it will be an issue is in our R2 zoning. We do not allow transient rentals. However, Airbnb and VRBO are making a concerted push nationwide to reach out to various apartment owners. They just inked a deal, I don't remember the name of the firm, but I do remember it was 250,000 units nationwide that now Airbnb is going to market that vacant market space. I did have a conversation prior to this meeting on this with Pre3, who's Cat Lakin's project going on in the village, and they said, yeah, we just don't have the vacancy. It's not worth our time to mess with it, nor is it what we do. So that was just good feedback that I'd share.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anybody in the audience care to make a comment about a non-agenda item? Silence. Item 1, page 24 under Zoom. Discussion regarding the recommendation of the Planning Commission to grant Jerry Zogg's request to abandon extensions of North Highland Road and Sunny Court, which service the Country House Resort property, and enter into a development agreement with Mr. Zogg to cover expenses related to that abandonment, consider appropriate motion for action.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Do you have any pictures of which roads these are? 'Cause he said it was the driveway.
As you go.
It is, they look like some old, just sort of random snippets of roadway from sometime long, long ago that our road runs into his property.
Highland Road?
Yeah, on what is
Very
clearly a driveway.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's just kind of my new neighborhood, so I was just trying to figure out what.
Yeah, this is,
Sorry.
from staff's perspective, this is a cleanup item that should have been
Yeah,
done long
okay.
ago
I just
And
was
if you look
crazy.
at it in Aerialville, it's all entirely encompassed.
on his property.
Yeah.
Okay,
And this will be back in front of the village board in January. This is the introduction of it, then there has to be opportunity for people to come and make comments.
Okay.
okay.
Step 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 2, discussion regarding implementation of the Premier Resort Area Tax, or PRAT, the passing and adoption of Resolution 369-112117, which authorizes conducting of a referendum, considering motions for action as appropriate.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Discussion or explanation? Questions?
Good idea.
My only question is this, do we know for sure if we have a primary?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do we know for sure if we have a primary yet?
We do not know for sure that we will have a primary, but one way or another, then this goes forward for February 20th. If we would delay and not approve this before December 11th, then you run the risk of not being able to have another election until next year.
Okay. So potentially, we won't know if there's a primary until January 2nd.
January,
Okay.
yep.
So, just for the sake of the record, in talking about some of this, so staff has met, and I would ask Tasha to fill in some of the details after I'm done kind of giving a general intro. We've looked at the numbers and discussed the merits of the estimates that come from the Department of Revenue. We believe that the $170,000 estimate from Department of Revenue is probably low, and that is based on how the sales work up here. So this is something that will come up. It's important to talk to people about it and make sure they have information, so we're working to put together an information packet that can be distributed out to residents.
So, maybe Randy has this answer. Does the primary have to be a statewide primary, or can it be a local primary?
It can be a local primary.
So if we needed to, we could run a primary.
You could run a primary?
Be the
I'm
only
just
ballot.
asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I saw that Sturgeon Bay was also considering this.
Sturgeon Bay's considering, but my understanding they'd have to get an act of the legislature to approve it first before they could move forward with it.
Okay.
See, we were
Sister
approved
Bay-
many years
Sister Bay and
ago.
Ephraim were approved many years ago for that.
Because, I mean, Tanya at Bay Shore brought up a question, you know, they have a shop in Sturgeon Bay and they have a shop in Sister Bay, so I thought it'd be nice if both of them had it, then there wouldn't be those issues, so, okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Randy, can I ask for clarification on that first motion? How should that motion actually be?
For the ZOG
Yeah.
matter, approval of action to enter development agreement regarding expenses related to abandonment and move forward abandonment.
So they don't approve the resolution now? that
Right.
it's done? Okay.
And he's covering the surveys and everything himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Item 3, discussion regarding the 2018 budget policies. Consider motion to amend the motion from October 24th meeting of the Board of Trustees regarding the adoption of the village's 2018 annual budget. A brief overview, we neglected to pass via a motion, or include the motion to approve the budget policies when we pass the budget. So as an act of cleanup, it's before us tonight to amend that, so we pass it as part of the budget that was approved October 24th.
Can I propose an amendment to
Certainly can.
what is presented on page 33? Budget policy, the third one down. The village board will consider from time to time COLA wage increases for its employees. I don't believe time to time is appropriate. I believe COLA should be reviewed annually. And if we want to do merit pay from time to time, that's okay. But I believe our employees we should have the COLA conversation every year.
Why don't we just strike from time to time and substitute the word annually?
Thank you.
I'm good with that.
Anything else? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 4, discussion regarding reallocating funds for the TKH ice rink. Consider a motion to adopt Resolution 370-112-117, which amends the 2017 annual budget to reflect additional funding for the TKH ice rink.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Explanation?
4 items in 20 minutes, we're doing good.
Way to jinx it, way to jinx it.
It's because closed session's going to be hell.
Parks Committee reviewed this, recommended it on to you guys, here it is.
It's just a reallocation of funds. There's
Yeah,
no funds being
there's-
taken from the unassigned fund balance or anything.
A little bit here, a little bit there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item 5, discussion regarding the acceptance of the utility easement for the Pheasant Park grinder station located at 10665 Mill Lane from the Pheasant Park Owners Association. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
So the way this item came to be is Stacy Bell and Mike Skell were going over utility bills for our various lift stations, and they had a lift station that did not have a bill. And so they started asking questions. Why do we not have a bill for this? And ultimately what Stacy was able to research with Mike was that apparently this was never dedicated to us. There were a couple of funny things that went along with this. So for example, state code requires one of these to terminate in a manhole, not in a clean out, but for whatever reason that was what was installed, was a clean out. So Mike and I had some conversation with the Owners Association representatives, and we were able to work out is to say, look, you guys are going to need to pay to have this done so we can take this out of our system. The good news for you guys is you won't have a utility bill coming in for it anymore from an electricity standpoint, but the bad news is you're going to have to pony up some cash to bring the system into compliance with how it should be, and they've agreed to do that. So this essentially brings all that into our system.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6, discussion regarding proposed amendments to the Marina Fest bylaws. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
All right.
Question
What page?
50. Item number 10, C. Funds in excess of the $25,000 event endowment fund shall be distributed to participating nonprofit organizations, including the Sister Bay Marina, in a manner determined by the Marina Fest Committee. Is it left so vague for a reason?
So I'm going to use the blackboard up here to talk about what that would look like. So annually to operate Marina Fest, there's a cash flow need, which the Marina has said, look, we'll pony up sort of a short-term loan, if you will, and maybe we do that for 1 year, maybe we do it for a couple of years until this thing gets to where it needs to go. But it takes us about $25,000 a year to pull off Marina Fest that we have to outlay out before we get revenue in. So ultimately, as revenue comes in from the various sources, both nonprofit and for-profit, it dumps into this new special revenue fund that we have. Part of the idea, the conversation behind this is that at some point, this will spin off from the village and it will cease to be something that we're really governing. And the Marina Fest Committee, at least in its current incarnation, will possibly no longer exist either. So nonprofits would take this thing over. A big part of the conversation with our nonprofits is that they're getting older, they're having a very challenging time getting volunteers. And this idea of an endowment fund would allow them to build up to a point of being able to handle the annual cash operating needs of the event. Then everything that comes in over that 25 grand can come out and be distributed to any number of entities. Right, fire department, historical society, one that doesn't participate that may participate would be like Northern Georgia Children's Center. So whoever those nonprofits are that are participating in the event, I tried to structure it in such a way as to say that that committee should figure out what is equitable and fair for whoever those recipients would be. And maybe they base it, some things that we're talking about in the meeting where maybe it's based on total number of volunteers. So if you submitted, the fire department put in 10 volunteers, the historical society put in 5 volunteers, the children's center put in 5 volunteers, maybe the fire department gets 50% of it, 25-25, maybe it's on a volunteer basis. Maybe it is on a participating entity basis, so if you participated, you get an equal share. Maybe it's based on sales, so whoever sold the most would then get something. But the way this seems to be moving, or at least the direction it seems to be moving, is everybody's sort of integrating things. So this year the fire department worked with the Kiwanis and the Snowmobile Club, and they kind of ran this common line of things. So
So to answer my question, it was purposely left vague for them to come up with that determination on how it will be.
yes, ma'am.
That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
We're working on it.
Any other questions or comments?
I doubt if a one-word answer would have been good enough for you, Denise. Good job.
Sometimes it is. Yes or no?
Do we have a motion on that? I don't believe we did.
No.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Discussion on village bylaws, confirmation of President Lino's appointments. You and I didn't have this discussion, but I think we've had it through a number of other people.
Okay.
The issue is to dissolve the parking committee, which was a subcommittee of parks, and to then task the plan commission with reviewing and proposing, coming up with a new parking plan. The parking committee has not been able to meet for lack of quorum for any number of times, so the feeling was to move it out from under parks, get it up to plan commission where it could be addressed sooner rather than later.
And should be on our agenda a week from tonight, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm proposing that we eliminate parking committee
Okay.
and that parking be put under plan
I
commission.
think that's a brilliant idea, Dave.
So was that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion. To dissolve myself from having to go to another committee.
You got a second?
I have a question.
But you need a second first.
Second.
Okay.
So, on that parking committee, there were several people that were business owners and residents, so what happens to their input? Do they just go away?
They're welcome to come to the plan commission and provide their input there.
Okay.
They had opportunity to provide it at meetings, but could never attend.
Okay, that's too bad.
I think it's important to note that committee didn't necessarily just take a look at rewriting the code. That was a part of what they did. They also took a look at potential solutions or alternatives, and I think they fleshed those out pretty fully.
We made quite a few recommendations early on when we were meeting regularly, but recently it's just kind of stalled.
Okay.
So to kind of get it across the finish line.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so I don't want to give the impression there was no input or that nothing had occurred in parking committee, because that's not true. A lot has happened.
Mostly true, but just kidding.
Mostly true.
No bluff side can be one way.
But we need.
Yes, no,
Silence
no,
that
no. Strike.
Don't talk about going to one-way streets again.
Yeah, that's,
Just for chat.
I fought that, Dave, I fought that.
Okay, so all in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chad, there'll be a vacancy on planning for you just for that.
Oh, don't you dare, it's dirty, it's dirty.
As far as appointments, there will be 2 vacancies on Plan Commission. One is immediate, the second one will be coming up in April. So we should probably announce it at some point in time. If somebody's interested in looking at that appointment or appointments, they should contact the village.
I haven't been on the village's website lately or whatever, and, when we have help wanted, is there a little blurb we could do on that?
Yeah, we'll put
Do
something
you
on.
have time to do that, Janelle?
I'm sure I can take time.
Matt Stone, who have not verified residence, and
No,
Nick
no.
Devilly have both expressed interest in.
I have heard from Nick.
Okay.
Okay. Number 8, reporting county activities from County Supervisor Dave Weiner. The report I have is November 14th, the county board met and passed the 2018 budget.
Okay.
We also had the annual fair board meeting. The county board is the fair board once a year. So that was talked about and announced, the gate receipts and attendance and that sort of thing. It actually turned out pretty good this year, better than it has in the last couple of years. So hopefully that will continue to move in the right direction. There was a, I think I have my numbers correct, it was a $77 million total budget that was approved. 23 million plus change is actually tax levy. The rest is grants and state aids that come from the state.
Mhm.
So it's a about a 2.7% increase on the levy rate.
1.527?
Don't quote me, no.
Okay.
No, it's not 1.5, 2.7.
So that's 2.7?
Right. Which nets out to about a 1.5 after you take.
Net new construction.
Net new construction.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there was a 2.7%?
It always gets confusing. So the
Okay.
rate went up 2.77%, but the actual tax levy only increased 1.53%.
Okay, so then I should just say there was a 2.7% increase in the levy limit? Or just leave that out?
I would just say it was a 1.53% increase in the tax levy.
Okay.
The other number doesn't mean anything.
1.53%, okay. Increase in the levy limit?
In the
In the
levy.
levy.
In the levy, okay.
And that's it, unless somebody has questions on that.
No?
Review of the financial statements, consideration and motion to approve the monthly bills. On page 51. I'll make a motion that we approve the monthly bills in the amount of $288,965.28.
I'll second it.
Questions?
Not many.
None?
Didn't write it down, damn it.
Hearing no questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 10, report by the village administrator on village activities and projects.
So understand that Harbor View is going to be listed with Miss Mary Kay Shumway. Those lots up there, we had a meeting this week between Al and Mary Kay, Heather and myself to talk about a strategy for marketing Al's properties going forward. And there's a little bit of horse trading that went on, and conversation we had previously about acquisition of that little sliver of property on Sunset. Looks like that's going to go ahead.
But not for the village.
Well, I will have to do the CSM and dedicate to us back the portion that is in the public right of way. So we'll end up with some of that property. So ultimately, they are working on the paperwork that needs to be done. It will be a couple of weeks yet before we know what the final disposition of that will be. But as of our meeting yesterday, that appears to be moving in a positive direction, and I felt pretty good about it.
Is
So,
that sidewalk thing?
Yeah, that's that
Okay,
sidewalk done.
Okay.
That's without any village funds?
We will be in for 5,000 on that. Heather had she wanted 50, and then that changed to 25, and then after some spirited conversation, that went to 15.
And we're on the hook for 5 of it?
We're in for 5, yeah. So there's that particular item, and part of that horse trading was they get the listings for the condos and for the old school site, which I think would be good for that. They do an excellent job of marketing sales. So Stony Ridge, I think what I will say at this point, even though I wrote in the board report, this item will be closed or discussed in closed session, and we'll have something there. But for Jackson in the backpack there, there has been a tentative shift in control over that site. I understand that Mr. Tim Hallbrook is going to be becoming involved in the active construction of the site. Spoke to some of his representatives today, and that the multifamily portion of that site will be transferred to Pre-3 so that they can complete what's going on over there. So there's that piece. If you drove down Bayshore Drive at any point today or yesterday, you noticed that a home that used to be where Candy Church's place was is now a kind of pile of rubble. So they've begun the demolition work on what will be the new 12-unit, 36-bedroom condo hotel. They have about 3 weeks yet of architectural work to do, all that back-end design stuff that they have to do after we're done with the Plan Commission in order to submit that on to the state for final approval. So again, 2 to 3 weeks out on that.
I would like to note that, as has happened in a number of these types of issues in the past, the fire department was able to do a number of training exercises in that building before it was demolished.
Excellent.
So something I'm going to say here is that you learn from things, and one of the things that I've learned is that developers, I think, are fantastic at achieving many things that we need them to achieve. And I think that people should be willing to commit in writing to the things that they talk about with our leaders and citizens. So in the upcoming draft of the development agreement that will be coming back to you, we're going to put some things in there that say, hey, you need to finish this project by this timeline. And if you can't finish it by this timeline, it looks like you're not going to be doing work during our in season. We don't want to have necessarily a big construction project going on with construction vehicles out there. I would be looking for Mr. Goki to get that project to a point that by the end of May or middle of June, based on a conversation that we'll have, he's at least got it enclosed and they're then doing interior work. Inside of that development agreement, we need to specify some things related to staging and where vehicles may end up. We don't want to have construction vehicles parked out there. Another one that we had some conversation about yesterday was I explained that there should be no metal track vehicles on that site. So if you guys happen to go past there and you see any sort of a metal track vehicle out there, please pick up the telephone or shoot me a text message so that I can rectify that. I really only would want us to have rubber wheeled or rubber track vehicles, and if there's any movement on that sidewalk, it should be matted with a very thick rubber mat so that our brand new beautiful sidewalks and curbing doesn't get all chipped and nicked up. So you guys please help me keep a lookout down there on that because once it gets messed up, the other thing, I talked to Denise about this earlier, if it gets screwed up, my recommendation would be that you compel the developer to do a saw cut at the boathouse property line, rip every bit of it out and replace every bit of it as new. That is brand new curb, gutter, and sidewalk. There's no excuse for it getting messed up. So there's that piece of the Sister Bay Marketplace project. Mr. Schmeltz and I have now had meetings with 2 different hoteliers who are interested in operating that. Both of them are Sister Bay-based hoteliers. So expect to hear some good things coming from that soon. It is in the design stage right now of work. Small quarry, Plan Commission will be reviewing this at the meeting coming up Tuesday, and then we'll have a special meeting on the 12th. So do the CUP for that and finish that project up. Mill Road West, the project is completed on the outside. They're still making some progress on the inside. Had the opportunity to go in it a couple of weeks ago, and it's gorgeous on the inside. It's a very well done project. Goki's restrooms, at least that's what we refer to them. So this is the Hendrickson Park restrooms. That particular project.
Just wait.
Denise and I had a conversation with an architect today to look at doing just another iteration of.
What was the disposition of the park committee yesterday?
Oh, so this thing has gone through, I don't know, at least a half a dozen iterations of stuff.
Oh, I
so
think more.
It's been more than that.
More than that.
Probably. So what came out of that meeting
Is another plan.
Yeah. So if you recall, for those of you that were present at the Marina Committee meeting, there was a request that the Parks Committee consider relocating some restrooms over by the Village Hall. So there was some conversation around the table about how much there was a need for that and what would take place there. The thing that was put out on the table was that because the marina is attached to it, there are some grant funds available through RBF. We've already received one round of that when we redid the public restrooms up there. So if we plan ahead to do that and involve the marina potentially with a set of shovel-ready plans, we could do a portion of those restrooms and get DNR to offer up some grant money to support that. So it might be a more judicious use of our money. As far as the Hendrickson Park bathrooms go, we discussed a number of options. The final conclusion, jump in if I missed this one, but it would be to take the existing restroom facility, demolish that, utilize the pipes that are there in place, and put back a larger, more improved structure that would include 3 female stalls in a female-only restroom, 1 stall and 2 urinals in a male-only restroom, 2 family bathrooms that would, all of that would face out to the front.
We don't need a drawing, Zeke.
Okay. Anyway,
And then maybe we
there's
should,
that, and then the storage area.
And then Zeke and I had a conversation earlier today on what do you think about a drinking fountain and possibly then an outdoor shower.
Okay. So ultimately, Plan A was demolish existing, replace with the Goki bathroom plan, with one added family room. Then Plan B is to go ahead and move forward, looking at planning, blowing out the back of the village hall, adding the restrooms over there. That would encompass the needs of the marina on that end, as well as the community room up above, and look at the grant from the waterways issue. So we'll go ahead and get restrooms in, finally, after 3 years, at least on the Hendrickson part, and we'll begin to start moving forward on doing something over near the village hall and getting rid of the downstairs village hall restrooms as a result. Great.
That sounds good.
Okay, so the last item on there is we continue to receive resumes for the vacancy that I'm creating. And each Friday, those are sent out to Mr. Duffy, Ms. Berto, and Mr. Lino. So looks like we've got some pretty good candidates in the kitty so far, and at some point, we will need to have a conversation about process, and we can talk about that in closed session.
Maybe after tonight's meeting, we get together for a few minutes, come up with the timing to
Sure.
sit down and look at some of them.
Sure.
Thank you.
Questions? Want to talk about utilities at all? The lift station we know about from Pheasant Park.
Yep, so you have the other reports in there for our, from our department head. So again, you took action on the Pheasant Park lift station. The swamp pump crane engineering started their work there, and Mike is out deer hunting, so he's not with us tonight.
What would you expect?
As the marina, again, Amy is not here tonight, but her report is detailed in there just to keep you up to speed on things, as is Steve's. I would tell you that when you see Steve, you should give Steve a big high five. Our entire staff was out this morning helping Steve put up Christmas lights. That wind is bitter and cold when you're out there, and we had a bunch of icicles, hanging off of us when we were done, but they all turned out really pretty, and I think Steve's done an excellent job this year.
Can't wait to see them all turned
Extremely
out.
short-staffed.
Yes.
I do have a question on Steve's report about the no parking signs that were installed on Maple Drive, North Spring, and Scandia. 4 of them have been pulled out and left lying on the ground. 3 have been reinstalled. Vandalism, residents, business people, who?
So we have heard from a few, and when I say a few, I mean, I think 2 citizens who have said, why do we have all these no parking signs? The no parking signs are uglier than the people that park here. Why can't we take them down? So it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation, because when we take the sign down, we have no legal basis to ticket. So that sign extends 200 feet on either side of the sign according to the Uniform Traffic Control Manual. So we have to space them every so often so that we can issue a ticket when someone calls us. So while that may be the case at this time of year, when we get to July and August, we've got people calling us up that say, oh my God, this car's parked out here. I wrote tickets all over the village this year for people parking in places they had no business parking. So my recommendation would be that you keep the signs in play and just.
So what happened to the 4th sign?
I don't know.
They were putting up Christmas lights, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
What kind of income did we have from the tickets? Just out of curiosity.
Have you got it?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's around $4,000.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, we pulled in like 125.
Wow.
Right? It was a lot of tickets this year.
Wow. And one thing to be aware of, Door County has a culture of, especially on festivals, especially that you park wherever you want. You park wherever you can. I do. I take my daughter down to Egg Harbor for Pumpkin Patch, and I have a 4Runner, so I park in a ditch somewhere, and I get myself out. I've never gotten a ticket, and I don't want Sister Bay to be the village that's giving everybody tickets. North Spring Road, where those signs are, the fact that those signs are out there, I think it's overkill. It's too much. People park in my yard every weekend. And there's no parking there. There's no sign, thank God. But if that's who we're gonna be, it's not very welcoming.
So a couple of just thoughts
Yeah.
to share with you. Number one, Fall Fest, that external parking lot worked fantastically. I think we had something like 470 cars when I went out there and counted, parked on 8 rows for several hundred feet. I mean, that worked fantastic. In the follow-up meetings, I'm sure Louise has got a lot of information on that also, and they're talking about things, but there's been some conversation about, do we run some kind of wagons next year to move people back and forth? Do we put the deputies on the wagons so that they have an opportunity to engage with people? And
This isn't even a Fall Fest issue, in my opinion, just so you're aware.
Yeah, no,
That's
I'm
not
saying-
what I'm talking about at all.
When we think about festivals or parking, we usually think about festivals. In the case of the other parking, so I had a gentleman to call me up who received a ticket, and the conversation was, I got this ticket, how come? And I asked where he parked, and he stated that he basically parked in someone's front yard on Spring Road. And I said, well, sir, if I parked my vehicle in your front yard, how would you feel about it? And he's like, well, I guess I wouldn't like it very much. And I was like, well, that's effectively what happened there. And so I see all sides of it, and Chad, I don't.
And
like
I see
the
I see that
either.
side of it too, I get it, it just,
But-
we've had this precedence for,
Sure.
since I could drive and since you could drive, where, when there wasn't parking, you parked on a couple tires on some grass. It's
I
just
think
been
the
done here
village-
forever. So now all of a sudden it's not allowed to be done and people are getting ticketed for it, and I can understand why they're pissed and why we're gonna have an image of, we just write tickets in Sister Bay.
I think I
And that's
probably
just something we have to be aware of.
I probably issued 8 tickets this year for people who literally parked right in the lane of travel. So if you remember that one over by you.
And that's
where they
warranted, that's great.
Right in the travel lane.
It's also, I requested that they be on my road, Maple Drive. One night I was coming home in the height of the season, and I don't know that a fire truck would have been able to get through there. They were parked down
And-
both
and-
sides.
And
So
Maple's a little different, but then again, I mean, I've went to Fall Fest for 10 years before I was a part of it, and I parked on Maple many of those years. And cars used to line up and down Maple. It's been done forever, it's never been a problem, really. I mean, there's never been a point where a fire truck couldn't get through anywhere that I've ever been aware of. And we just are so afraid of that. I just think we just gotta be aware of it. If we're just gonna write tickets like crazy, you're gonna alienate people from wanting to come here. And that's not what we wanna do. At least that's not what I wanna do.
No, and that's not what we want to do. I agree, that's not what we want to do. But
I mean, we all sounded excited when we got $4,000 in tickets. There was excitement. And that's kinda crap. That's a crappy attitude in a tourist town to have. It's a really crappy attitude, so.
There was
Shame
an
on all
awful
you.
lot of times when it
Just
was
kidding.
clearly marked, no parking. I'm not
Right.
talking on the side of the road, I'm talking spaces
Yeah.
clearly marked.
Post office parking lot.
I get it.
Post office parking lot.
And if they're,
Up and
and
down,
they're
you know,
blocking a driveway or
you know,
blocking
right
somebody's
here
driveway, I
with
get
the
that,
Right.
But if years past, there was only $120 written, and this year there was 4,000, how come there's just,
a lot more people had ticket books. I was one of them.
yeah.
Tom Seeger was about $1,000 of it. I mean, really, every time somebody parked off, Tom got on the telephone and said, hey.
And you're not
gotta
getting the
get people out
telephone
here.
calls at 1 o'clock in the morning from people.
I get them, Dave.
About
No, I
what's
do.
going on.
Trust me, I get those calls too. They're just for different reasons.
Yeah, I'm getting it for the parking. And they're right in what they're saying. So downtown Sister Bay has changed immensely over the last 2 years, and so there's gonna be some change.
Yeah, and the
And-
first thing I'm gonna vote for is parking on
We
both
don't-
sides of the North Spring Road. And have all those neighbors come to me, because that's where that has to be.
We could probably pave shoulder posts.
Well, that's what we gotta do. It's a block off the state highway. That's where we gotta park people.
The problem is even on South Spring too, okay, you walk down there and after the weekends, if there's rain in the prior week, you now see these poor people have huge ruts.
Yep.
Some people don't take a lot of maybe time and effort in their lawn, but many of them do. And now to go out on a Monday and see all their efforts are a mess that they have to spend more time, money and effort to replace, that's not right.
North Bay Shore Drive, right there, just north of Berto's, that just turns to a swamp after a rain, and you're absolutely right, you get ruts right down there.
Right. I mean, they're not little ruts. I mean, they're 6, 8 inches deep, the whole tire, and they'll run for 20, 30, 40 feet.
Time to make our roads wider and put parking on the side. I mean, it's,
I agree, if you're gonna do it, that's what.
I mean, I
needs to be
agree,
done.
that's what we
Right.
need to do, we don't have the funds to do it, we definitely need to do
Ticket
it.
money would make the funds.
4,000.
You know what?
That's a third of a stall, right, $4,000?
Yep, the good news with that Pratt, right, there's some money to do some things.
Okay.
All right.
We're off.
Thank you for hearing me
Way
out.
Committee reports. Admin has not met. Admin and comp has not met. Communications and technology needs to meet soon, right, Tasha?
Yes.
So maybe we can get that structured tonight.
Not yet.
When can you meet?
Next week. Next week's gonna be a good week for me.
So the week of the 28th? How about you, Tasha?
Pretty good. Depends on what time you pick.
What time of the day or
Can we
evening
do
could you
8
meet?
o'clock?
Hmm?
Can we do 8?
In the morning?
Yeah.
How about in the afternoon?
Afternoon, I mean, do we push it to,
I'm not good in mornings.
okay.
I'm not good till 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
We do 4?
Yeah? Can you do 4, Scott?
What day?
What day? I'm good on the 28th, the 30th.
30th would be good.
What 30th is what day of the week?
That's a Thursday.
Okay. 4 o'clock?
Thursday, the 30th. What committee is this?
Oh, my way.
You had minutes in the packet from an October meeting. Anyway, we met this past Friday. Things are moving forward with updates of the brochure. The coloring book was so well received, we're going to try to make some improvements, up some advertising, do some full pages, improve some of the pages, and possibly make it interactive. So Paige is bringing some people in next meeting to discuss that, and
Scratch and sniff cherries.
all kinds of stuff, like if you can click on like Al Johnson's page, you know, so we're gonna see if they do a full page and incorporate their advertising in the coloring itself, and then, you know, there'd be a little click-on thing there, and maybe it would take you to the Al Johnson's web cam of the goats on the roof. So, so yeah, lots of fun with the coloring book, and it's kind of, we're kind of going that direction instead of that mobile app, which has kind of been very expensive to produce and not feeling like a lot of people would be using it. So, so we're putting all our energy into the coloring book. It's really fun, so people like it.
DCECD.
I was gone for the last meeting.
I know that Caleb is trying to get a meeting up here to talk about what they could do for Northern Door and for Sister Bay, since we have been a paying member, paying donor.
There's also listening sessions the 13th and 14th. Unfortunately, I think all 3 of them are down in Sturgeon Bay.
That's one of the discussion points.
Yeah, that was requested when that came up that there be something up north.
Economic development has not met. Finance has not met. Fire.
Has not met, nor did the district.
Historical Society.
Question,
Oh,
we don't have a meeting scheduled, do we, Scott?
I don't have one down.
Okay, because I was looking and, all right.
I can't either.
Okay.
October 5th, Historical Society, final decision on the barn they're going to build, the location. That was done. And the November 2nd meeting, which I had to cut short due to our excursion to Liberty Grove. Annual dues is going to increase to $25 for an individual, $40 for a family. Upcoming Christmas party will be Friday, the 1st of December from 6 to 8. And then I had to go to Liberty Grove.
Holiday lighting has not met. Library building.
Again, your packet contains the minutes from the October meeting. We met this Tuesday, the 14th. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum. We have some big issues to decide on upgrading the lighting. Lots of lighting is out, expensive bulbs to replace, so we had Action Electric come in and give us some estimates. So now we have to have a special meeting on the 28th to vote on that, but the money for that is gonna come from the book sales, which have been, in the library book sales, have been really good, so, shouldn't be a problem. They're also working on the signage for the, side of the building that faces Highway 42, so,
Just from reading the minutes, granted, they were from last month, so you have yet to determine whether or not you're going to replace them all? You're still having that conversation? Or are you going to replace them all in one fell swoop?
not all in one fell swoop. There'll be, you know, there's priorities.
Okay.
There's a lot of them that are out, and, you know, I don't remember, there's ballasts, there's different types of lighting. We got some crazy estimates to try to match some of the lights that were brought in.
I just want to share my experience with you. I redid my lighting from 8-foot fluorescents to LEDs. A couple of years ago, it cost $2,500. Granted, I didn't have the same amount of lighting that the library does. It was probably in 8 or 9 months. I got the money back from my
Absolutely, we're
bill.
going LED. There's no question.
No, but I was just
Yeah.
saying, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
If you're gonna,
I have 2 points. I also relamped my store and my canopy and everything, and it was about $12,000 at the time, and that was a payback in less than a year on the energy
because your
side.
canopies
Right.
probably just sucked.
Oh,
Oh.
1,000-watt, you know. The second point is, the county recently entered into an agreement that anybody in the county can use, including municipal function, under the PACE program.
Yes.
A way to get contractors to come in and replace everything, okay, and funded by local banks, and you pay back the cost of it through energy savings.
Okay,
There's no upfront cost or outlay whatsoever.
I thought that was for appliances. I mean, we talked
No,
about,
It's
so it's
for-
related.
It's for
So-
anything, any construction, any retrofit.
Okay, so Mike Mulpey is the guy doing this. Would he know about that?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I'll talk to Ralph Blankenberg about that. It's Case,
Did you
C-A-S-E.
say We Energies?
Pace.
It was PACE.
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 Oh, there's
It's a statewide program called PACE.
Okay.
But the county did approve and sign up for it for anybody in the county to be able to use it, use it. And it's pretty thorough what they do, and the nice thing about it is there's no outlay up front.
Okay.
The bank agrees to finance it based on savings, so the
Okay.
savings, the energy savings pay for the actual retrofit.
Okay.
And does that mean that you can use your own contractor, or do they have their own people that come in and do this?
All of the above.
Okay.
They have a list of contractors, but local contractors can also sign up
Okay.
for it.
Okay, great, I will mention that.
Their point is they do want to work with local contractors. Marina Fest, I think we saw the results of that.
Yeah.
Parking.
Marina Fest does have a
Sorry.
meeting on the 29th. Correct, Heidi? Okay.
Parking, we won't be seeing that on the sheet anymore. Parks, there's no minutes, we had a meeting yesterday.
Had the new revelation about the bathrooms? and-
The Goki bathrooms, right? Personnel, was not met. Plan Commission,
Next week.
I know there's minutes here. SBAA,
Oh, boy.
Question on page 88. That first paragraph about the New Year's Eve, and since Zeke is leaving, you know, Jake Bastian will be in charge of the fireworks display.
okay, there's been, let me head this one off. There's been-
I already know about it.
Okay, there's been lots of discussion about it in the background. Just because the minutes of SBA say that this is what's going to happen may not necessarily be what actually occurs.
Okay.
Mr. Jackson has agreed to come back as part of that, and Mr.
Larry?
Jake has, to get his final licensing, has to have one more show. This would be that one more show, and Larry Huber would come back and assist us with it also.
So New Year's Eve, huh, Zeke?
Yes, sir.
Coming back.
Any other questions on SBA? Tourism zone. Saw the letter, right?
It was,
Utilities.
Took action tonight.
we are meeting on Tuesday, the 5th.
Any other committees I'm unaware of that I've met? Sometimes that's how you find out things.
I usually say, which meeting did I miss?
Discussion regarding matters to be placed on the future agenda referred to committee official and employee. Okay. I'll make a motion, we convene in a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851G to confer with legal counsel for governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Motion by Lino.
Second.
Roll call. Lino, yes.
Berto, yes?
Duffy, yes?
Bell, yes.
Karanka, yes.
And Chris, yes?
Baker, yes?
We are now in closed session. I suggest we take a 5-minute recess.